By the summer of 1932, the Great Depression had settled into a grim daily routine. For millions of people facing historic economic hardship, the local cinema became a vital refuge, a place where a few cents could buy a temporary exit from a struggling world. These theaters offered a sanctuary of light and sound, but the worlds projected onto their screens were visually incomplete. Audiences sat in the dark watching a universe rendered entirely in shades of gray, where every story was told through shadows. Color technology did exist, but it was physically limited. This diagram shows the two-color system used at the time, which relied only on red and green dyes. Because it couldn't produce blue wavelengths or bright yellows, the results were often muddy. Sky was a dull gray, and human skin appeared either deathly pale or unnaturally flushed. These optical failures led most of the Hollywood establishment to see color as a flawed, expensive gimmick. To the major studios, high-quality storytelling belonged to the sharp, reliable world of black and white. At the time, Walt Disney was a young producer finding success with his Silly Symphony series. His latest short, Flowers and Trees, followed the established rules of the era. It was fully animated, edited, and ready for release in standard black and white. Disney's studio was small and financially fragile. They needed to ship this film immediately to secure the distribution revenue required to pay their animators and fund their next project. But just as the film was being prepared for theaters, a representative from the Technicolor company arrived with a secret prototype camera. This new machine didn't just tweak the old red and green system, it promised to capture every color the human eye could see. Disney was left with a choice. He could release a finished, guaranteed product to keep his studio afloat, or he could scrap months of completed work to gamble his company's future on a brand new, unproven camera. The mechanical challenge of color film was synchronization. To get a clear image, the camera had to capture multiple color records at the exact same moment without any blur or overlap. This diagram shows how the new 3-strip camera solved that problem. Instead of using two separate lenses, a single lens directed incoming white light into a specialized internal prism. That prism split the light into 3 distinct paths, sending them through red, green, and blue optical filters. These 3 filtered beams then exposed 3 separate strips of black and white film simultaneously. Because all 3 strips recorded the image through the same lens at the same time, they were in perfect mathematical alignment. In the laboratory, these 3 negatives were developed and then used to stamp cyan, magenta, and yellow dyes onto a single final print. This chemical layering acted like a color printing press for the screen. This wasn't a visual approximation or a muddy illusion. For the very first time in cinema history, a machine was capturing the full natural spectrum of light. Disney was convinced. He made the radical decision to throw away the finished black and white footage of Flowers and Trees and start the entire production over from scratch. His brother Roy and the studio's financial advisors were horizontal with worry. They saw the decision to reshoot an entire film using an expensive experimental process during a depression as a path toward bankruptcy. The 3-strip camera was a massive 500-pound machine that was difficult to move and even harder to calibrate. Using it to animate a forest of dancing trees meant doubling the studio's workload and their debt. To protect his studio from the risks he was taking, Walt negotiated an exclusive 2-year contract with Technicolor. He ensured that for the next 24 months, no other animation studio would be allowed to use this 3-strip process. This contract meant that while Disney's screen would soon glow with vivid blues and bright yellows, every one of his competitors would remain stuck in the old 2-color world of red and green. Flowers and Trees premiered on July 30, 1932, at Grauman's Chinese Theater. It was billed as a simple short subject playing before a major live-action feature, but it quickly became the main attraction. Audiences were used to muddy tints, but here they saw lush forest greens and piercing blue skies. During the film's climax, the screen filled with terrifyingly vivid orange and crimson flames that looked and felt hot. This vibrancy changed the way the audience reacted to the story. The bright, healthy colors of the spring forest made the arrival of the dark orange fire feel like a genuine threat. The color wasn't just decorative, it made the life and death of the characters on screen feel much more real. The short became an overnight sensation. people began returning to the theater multiple times just to see the colors again, and the animated short soon became more popular than the live-action feature it supported. The industry could not ignore the reaction. Suddenly, animation was no longer seen as a crude technical novelty for children, but as a medium that was beginning to surpass the visual capabilities of live-action films. By November, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences recognized this shift. They introduced a brand new category at the 5th Academy Awards specifically for this work, Best Animated Short Subject. Flowers and Trees won the inaugural award easily. The win proved that Disney's technical gamble had paid off, and it established a high-fidelity standard that would eventually lead to the studio's first feature-length films. The Oscar win marked a turning point. Animation was no longer just a gimmick. It was an award-winning discipline that had finally captured the full spectrum of the human imagination. This was brought to you by Stalls or Circle. Thank you for listening.